Team USA faces red-hot England in an epic semifinal clash at the FIFA Women's World Cup. Coverage begins tomorrow, 2 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back to the NBA. Over a month ago, Rick Bucher sat right here on this set and predicted Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving would be Brooklyn-bound. Yesterday, that prediction became reality. Durant also had interest in the Knicks, but James Dolan reportedly was not prepared to sign KD to a max deal because of that Achilles injury. We're joined now by Bleacher Reporter senior writer Rick Bucher. Rick, why do you think they chose Brooklyn?
Ultimately because the Knicks were not choosing Kyrie, and Kyrie chose the Nets. And KD and Kyrie had been talking for years, since they played on the national team together, about playing together. And so ultimately it came down to, as things evolved, the Knicks were willing to pay max contracts to Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant. Kawhi was willing to meet with them, but he wasn't going to meet until the 3rd. And they looked at it and said, well, there's no assurance that we're going to get Kawhi. And if we don't get Kawhi, then we're not going to be able to pry KD away from Kyrie. That's a bad bet. That's wishful thinking. So let's pivot. Let's say we're going to go in another direction. And ultimately, that was the...
Okay, are you saying the Knicks would not have taken Kyrie?
They would not have taken Kyrie for a year. They did not like the idea of him leading their team for a year, waiting for KD, ultimately. They weren't willing to see Boston 2 happen on their watch.
Okay, so you're saying there was no choice left but for KD and Kyrie, because Kyrie was already pro Nets.
Absolutely. It was
right?
basically those two looking to play together, and the Knicks looking at the idea of Kyrie being their leader for a year, waiting for KD, and still some question in terms of what's KD going to be when he gets here. But ultimately, we're a 7.
The Knicks were able to tell Kevin, you have to pick another co-star?
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, that's why you got the news late about Kawhi and KD possibly joining up, because the idea was, hey, KD, if we got Kawhi, would you switch? And I was told that, yes, KD would switch if they got Kawhi. Problem is that after exploring that, they found that Kawhi wasn't going to meet with them until late in the process.
Okay.
And they didn't have an assurance that they were going to get Kawhi. So they're like, if that's what it's going to take and we can't guarantee that we're going to get him, we could be stuck here holding the bag, not having done anything.
And they're still stuck holding the bag. I mean, Julius Randle and Bobby Portis and Todd Gibson, that's not exactly murderer's row. I mean, basically what they resorted back to is 1990s. That's Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, Charles Smith. That's what they got, Skip.
Except they're not as good as those guys.
Right.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing, though. They're also cognizant of the fact that they're a 17-win team. They have a lot of growth. And yes, if they could get... This was basically their approach. We will pay max money for players that we consider max money players. And there were only 2 guys definitively in this class that they saw as that, which is Kawhi and KD. And I agree with them.
Right.
They could have salvaged things and gone after a Tobias Harris or a Jimmy Butler or a Kemba Walker and signed them to max deals. And as of today, people would have said, oh, well, the Knicks didn't get their guys, but they did the next best thing. The problem is they would have been paying max money for guys who are not max players. Right. And maybe they would have won today, but they wouldn't have won down the line. So the fact that they held fire, I don't have an issue with that. And as mentioned, the thing about KD, I've been told by the Knicks, by a Knicks source that that is not true. Did they want to look at the medicals? Yes. Were they unwilling to give him a max contract? I've heard that's not true. The other part of it is...
Chris Broussard also said
we haven't seen the medicals. Even, let's say it was the case where they were willing to do that. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad idea.
No,
because
you want to see the medicals.
Exactly. And you may look at it and say, this isn't the greatest of bets. So we need to wait and see before this really pays out for the Nets.
Go ahead.
So what you're telling me is that Kevin Durant, in the end, prioritized friendship above all else, because his friendship with Kyrie, it won the day.
Yes.
That's what happened, because you can't tell me, because he was the biggest domino with the most leverage, if he had wanted to expedite a meeting with Knicks and number 2 he could have expedited that. He could have forced that last week. He could have pressured. He could have said, look, let's join forces on the Knicks. Would number 2 have listened to him? I think he would have. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and as I was told with Kawhi would have said, you want to come play with me? Cool. You don't want to come play with me? Cool. Kawhi was good with playing with KD, but it would have been with the Clippers. And KD was the one who was, well, I'd like to play together, but I want it to be in New York. And that was the sticking point between those two.
So most people agree that Kevin had his heart set early on a Knicks, being Knicks, right? Because, and I've just been beating this to death, and I'm going to say it one more time, the legacy move, the obvious legacy move is to go save the Knicks.
Yeah.
Because most people don't get it, but we've been around for a while, and we've been around the Knicks many, many nights, and we get the feeling of what it means in New York, even though they haven't won since 1973. It's the biggest sleeping giant in all of sports, and there's nothing close to the Knicks. And Kevin's legacy could have pivoted on, I just went and won a championship for the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
Now, he needs a co-star, and I thought it was Kyrie, but maybe, I get it. Kyrie did not do himself much
that
justice
last year
in
in Boston.
Nope, it was pretty ugly.
Yeah, no, it changed a lot. And so did KD's injury. Not only just for everybody on the outside, but for KD. Because everybody is saying, well, KD, you'll be okay on the other side. You'll be close to the same. And KD's asking, but what if I'm not? If he had not gotten injured, the idea of going into New York and saving the day and turning that around, I believe that would have been viable, and we'd be looking at a completely different situation.
So to me, from a distance, Kevin got tired of fighting. He fought Russell, even though they loved each other off the floor, but he fought him on the court for all those years in Oklahoma City. And then he said, okay, this isn't going to work. I'm going to join forces with that team that just came back from 3-1 down to beat us. I'm going to go join forces, and maybe it'll work out because we share the ball. We play beautiful basketball. And they did, and it worked. But he didn't really click off the court with anybody. He didn't become close friends with Steph or obviously Draymond, and that bridge got nuked this year. And nothing clicked, and Clay kind of went his own way, and they got along fine, but they weren't close friends. He had one very close friend. He had two. He had DeAndre as well as Kyrie. And all of a sudden, this feels like a little bit of a semi-retirement move. Not that he doesn't want to win with the Nets, but all of a sudden he said, you know what? I'm just tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting Draymond and Russell. Now I'm going to go with Kyrie and DeAndre. We're going to have fun, man. I'm going to show up every night in the locker room, and it's going to be a blast because we get along great, right?
He loved Steph, and not playing with Steph is still, that was the thing that was holding him back from, do I still go back to Golden State? And ultimately, everything that happened with the injury and the idea that from the beginning of last summer, he was thinking, I want to go explore the next thing. I can't underscore enough how the idea of going to New York and resurrecting the Knicks was the plan going back to last summer.
Right.
And the injury changed everything, changed it in his mind, changed it for the Knicks. I mean, it just had a profound
So you're saying he has
effect.
some doubt about his ability to bounce back and be Kevin? I'm Kevin Durant.
Who he's going to be on the other side of this. He's hoping for the best, but by no means is he feeling confident that he's going to be the same player.
I know who feel confident. I feel confident about somebody.
That's all you care about right now.
Yeah, I really talk about
Kevin Durant, out of sight, out of mind.
Shannon-
Right? You don't
Shannon-
have to worry about him anymore.
Shannon is going to be, I have a feeling, is going to be insufferable for the
Yep,
next year.
I do too.
What I
because
do, I ain't bothered
You
nobody.
know who would become the best player on the planet. And we saw him
Yeah, we did. We saw him in the NBA Finals.
We saw him reemerge in Game 5 of the NBA Finals and make his first 3 threes.
Did you-
And then it happened.
Finals MVP.
Yeah.
Who has more Finals MVP? Kevin Durant or Kawhi? Who has more Defensive Player of the Year? Kevin Durant or Kawhi?
Who's the better player,
Which
Kevin
one
Durant
of these
or that
guys
guy?
gonna be healthy in
Yep.
2019? Kawhi or Kevin Durant? Which one of these guys will
You
be on
got
the
such a
Lakers?
huge
Hey,
break.
did I?
You got such
He's already insufferable.
It's like the heavens opened and said, here, let there be LeBron. Let him bounce back.
No, but nobody wanted to play LeBron.
Come
Everybody
back,
hates LeBron.
season for the ages.
But you know, you remember Kevin Durant said that, you know, the hullabaloo and it's toxic. Nobody wants to play with toxicity. I know a guy that want to get in the kitchen with all that
So
toxicity.
That's why your guy posted that comeback season for the ages, right? He knew what was coming.
What? What's coming?
Yeah. He knew that number 2 was coming.
Is he?
Right? Is he?
All right, we've talked about the East Coast, New York. Let's get to the West Coast after
Yep.
this break. We know what Shannon thinks. But what's Rick think? Is Kawhi Leonard on his way to L.A.?
Yeah,
We'll
as we
discuss
speak.
that up
No.
next.
As we speak.
No.